And but meanwhile, I'm trying to find any questions are being asked, so please just let me drift away for a minute and get that done.
Okay, so I'll translate this part and then go into more details. فإحنا عندنا بالنسبة للتعليم والتعلم في فصل المرحلة الابتدائية في الاي بي أو في نظام البكالوريا الدولية في نموذج لكل مرحلة. بالنسبة لنموذج للمرحلة الابتدائية ده بيلخص لنا إيه بالظبط أهم النقاط اللي المفروض تبقى موجودة في المنهج اللي بيدرس. الأساس هنا هو إن إحنا عندنا 6 سياقات. كل سياق بيتناول موضوع معين، والمواضيع دي بتختلف من مرحلة عمرية لمرحلة عمرية بناء على المفروض الأطفال يتعلموا إيه. بعديها بيجي المواد الدراسية كلها موجودة في النموذج بتاع ال PYP أو في نموذج المرحلة الابتدائية، لأن إحنا زي ما إحنا عارفين هو النظام التعليم والتعلم في المرحلة الابتدائية هو قائم على إنه عابر للمواد الدراسية، يعني بمعنى كل المواد الدراسية مرتبطة ببعض. فعندنا الرياضة واللغة والعلوم، كل المواد دي موجودة وكلهم بنفس الأهمية. بعديها في الوكالة التعليمية، بمعنى إن الولاد ليهم رأي في اللي بيتعلموه. وبعدين في نهج التعلم أو أساليب التعلم اللي هي البحث والاستقصاء والتعلم عن طريق اللعب، اللي هم أساس التعلم في المرحلة. Okay, so here I'll go first into a general comment on this model. So this model follows something called 3D learning. And 3D learning is different than the 2D learning that occurs in all other learning systems. So for example, in American system and British system, any other learning system, they focus on 2 main points. The first point is the content, what exactly the students will be learning. And the second point is skills. And like most probably these skills are related to subjects. So they are subject-related skills. In the PYP, we focus on, of course, the content and the skills, but also on concepts. How students are going to connect these skills and the content and the knowledge into concepts and know how to use them in their real life.
Can you give an example?
Yes, I will. I have lots of examples, but when I give more details.
I stand corrected.
هنا النموذج ده بيدل على إن الاي بي بيتبع حاجة اسمها التعلم ثلاثي الأبعاد، وده بيختلف عن التعلم ثنائي الأبعاد اللي بيطبق في طرق التعليم المختلفة زي في أنظمة التعليم زي النظام الأمريكي والنظام البريطاني. بيبقى تركيز فيهم على المنهج، إيه بالظبط الولاد هيتعلموه في كل مادة دراسية، وإيه السكيلز أو إيه المهارات اللي هم هيتعلموها، ودي المهارات اللي بتبقى ليها علاقة بالمواد. أما بالنسبة للآي بي فهو برضو بيركز على النقطتين دول، بس بيضيف ليهم المفاهيم، والمفاهيم دي بتخلي الولاد يقدروا إن هم يربطوا المعلومات اللي بيتعلموها ببعض وبالمهارات ويقدروا إن هم يطبقوه في حياتهم. Okay, so here for the elements of PYP that reflect the 3D model, we have the knowledge, which is the content that is there in every subject. We have the conceptual understanding, which is related to the 3D model, which means that students, they connect the knowledge that they know along with the skills, and they come up with a conceptual understanding. They understand conceptually, not just a concept that is related to one subject, but a concept that can be applied in their whole life. We have the skills, and not only subject-specific skills, We have also life skills that we are going to dig deeper in later. We have dispositions because IB is a holistic learning program. That means it focuses on the whole child and not only the educational part or learning content. It's also about developing the character, the social and emotional well-being of the children. And we have action, which indicates that students have learned knowledge, they have understood this knowledge, they have used the skills, and they have applied their learning into a different context. هنا بنتكلم على النقاط الأساسية في نظام البكالوريا الدولية في المرحلة الابتدائية. النقطة الأولانية هي النولج أو المعلومات. إيه المعلومات اللي الولاد بتتعلمها من كل مادة؟ النقطة الثانية هي المفاهيم. الولاد بتقدر تفهم إيه من المواد دي، ومش بس المواد، إزاي بتقدر تربط الحاجات اللي اتعلموها بمفهوم خاص بيهم، مفهوم يقدر يتطبق فيه الحياة. النقطة الثالثة هي المهارات، وهي مش بس المهارات الخاصة بالمواد زي مثلا جمع وطرح أو أيا كانت المهارة، ولكن برضو المهارات الحياتية اللي احنا هنتكلم عليها بعد شوية. ورابع نقطة هي dispositions أو قدرة الأطفال على التصرف أو شخصيتهم بتتطور إزاي. والنقطة الرابعة هي إنهم يقدروا يطبقوا التعليم اللي هم اتعلموه ده في حياتهم. Okay, so how are these elements modeled in the program of inquiry? First, we need to know what a program of inquiry is. A program of inquiry is basically shows what exactly students are going to learn in each grade level through the 6 themes. So we have the 6 themes listed. For early years 1 and 2, they're required to have only 4 units. From early years 3 up, they should have 6 units. And then for each unit, there is a central idea or a big concept. And this is where students are going to explore this concept through different disciplines or different subjects. And then we have the learner profile or the dispositions that we've talked about before, how students are going to develop their character through this unit. And also it has a sense of global mindedness and how students are going to be internationally minded. And we have the concepts, what exactly we're focusing on this unit, and the skills, what life skills students are going to develop through the unit. هنا هنتكلم على برنامج البحث ازاي بنحط المنهج ده. برنامج البحث بيتضمن السياقات اللي هم ال6 سياقات. بالنسبة للأطفال في رياض الأطفال، مرحلة رياض الأطفال الأولى والثانية بيبقى عندهم 4 نقاط للبحث. أما بالنسبة للجريدز الأكبر أو المراحل العمرية الأكبر بيبقى عندهم 6. ومن خلال السياقات دي بنبتدي نحط أفكار رئيسية، مفاهيم عامة، من خلالها الولاد بيبتدوا يبحثوا ويوصلوا للمعلومات من خلال المواد المختلفة، ويقدروا إن هم يعرفوا إيه المهارات اللي هيبتدوا يطوروها من خلال الوحدات البحث دي. Okay, so this is the first part of planning. The second part of planning is breaking down these points in the program of inquiry into the unit plan. How exactly students are going to learn. The first part of unit planning is assessment. So what exactly we want students to understand through this unit. Based on this assessment and based on this end of mind, we start to plan the activities that students are going to do throughout the whole unit in order for them to reach this understanding. And then the unit plans are broken down into lessons, and there's something else called standalone planners. And these are for content areas that are related to specific subjects, basically math and English or language arts. And these are areas that are hard to be integrated within units of it. For us as UIS, we are minimizing the number of standalone planners as much as possible. And any concept that is related to a certain subject is going to be integrated within the unit itself. And then any extra understanding that the students need to reach would be done through the same concept of the unit, but we're digging deeper into the subject-specific skill and content specifically through the standalone plan. بعد مرحلة التخطيط بيتم أو جزء تاني من مرحلة التخطيط هو التخطيط للوحدة كاملة. بنبتدي تخطيط للوحدة من خلال التقييم الكلي للوحدة. احنا عاوزين الولاد تتعلم ايه بالظبط من خلال الوحدة دي. بناء على النقطة دي بنبتدي نحدد ايه هي الأنشطة اللي الولاد هيعملوها من خلال الوحدة علشان يقدروا يوصلوا للمفهوم ده. في حاجة اسمها تخطيط منفصل أو حاجة ليها علاقة بالمواد الدراسية معينة زي مثلا الرياضيات أو اللغة. ففي نقاط بتبقى صعب إن هي تبقى موجودة في الوحدة نفسها، فبتحتاج إن المدرس يبتدي يركز عليها لوحده. كمدرسة كأب تاون إحنا بنحاول إن إحنا نقلل النقاط دي جدا، وبنحاول إن كل المفاهيم اللي متعلقة بالمواد الدراسية تبقى موجودة في وحدة البحث. حتى تعلم اللغة وتعلم تعلم اللغة نفسها أو تعلم الرياضيات بيتم من خلال الوحدة. And then we go into the scope and sequence part and the standards. So as Uptown, we align the IB scope and sequence, the PYP scope and sequence with Common Core standards. So we have the IB outcomes, what exactly we want students to learn in each subject. And we have the Common Core standards to be more specific and to know exactly what students should be able to do at the end of each year.
The Common Core standards were developed in the United States. Again, standards are not something that has to be met by the end of the year, but is a goalpost for us to meet. We can also go beyond them. So this is about what we talked about a few weeks ago in differentiation of instruction. We know where the typical student should be by the end of the year, and we're going to get those kids hopefully to that point. And kids who need a bit more time have that time. So these are just goalposts. They're not things that mean you pass or fail.
هنا بنتكلم على المعايير. احنا بنقيم الولاد على اساس ايه وايه بالظبط اللي الولاد بيتعلموه، وازاي بنقدر نحدد الولاد هيتعلموا ايه في كل مرحله عمريه. ده بيكون من خلال وثيقه المجال والتسلسل الخاصه بنظام البكالوريا الدوليه للمرحله الابتدائيه، ومن خلال المعايير الامريكيه. واحنا بنبتدي ان احنا نطبق الاثنين مع بعض او نخليهم هما الاثنين يمشوا في نفس النقطه نفسها اللي احنا عايزين نقيمها، وبنبتدي نطبقها على كل واحده. So this is the first part of the teaching and learning process, which is the written curriculum. How exactly we plan for the learning process. دي كانت أول جزء من تعليم وتعلم في المرحلة الابتدائية للبكالوريا الدولية، وهو المنهج المكتوب. إزاي بنقدر إن إحنا نحدد بالضبط الولاد هيتعلموا. Then we go into the second part of the teaching and learning process, which is the taught curriculum. What exactly is being taught inside the classroom, or what we want students to learn and how students learn. And the first part here would be the classroom setup. The classroom setup reflects the philosophy of the school, the approaches that are going to be used in teaching students, and how students are going to learn and to what extent they will be engaged. So for the classroom setup, here students are not working individually all the time. They're not sitting in rows. The teacher is not the source of information, so they shouldn't be all facing the board. They are the ones finding the information. They're the ones inquiring. So when you enter a PYP class, you will find groups, tables everywhere. You will find storage units, of course, because you use lots of manipulatives and resources. You will find flexible seats. So you can find normal chairs if a student wants to sit on a normal chair. You can find bean bags, bouncy balls, whatever type of flexible seats. You are going to find lots of resources and manipulatives. You should find the reading corner with lots of books. And of course, you can have a technological tool for students to research. هنا هنتكلم على المكتب المنهج المدرس، وأول جزء منه هو شكل الفصل. شكل الفصل المفروض بيعكس إيه بالظبط الولاد بتتعلم بأنهي طريقة وإيه الطرق اللي بتستعمل في التدريس. فلو حد دخل فصل للمرحلة الابتدائية في نظام البكالوريا الدولية، المفروض إنه هو يلاقي مجموعات من الطلبة أو مجموعات من الترابيزات مع بعض، لأن الولاد بتتعلم في مجموعات. مش كل الترابيزات أكيد بتواجه السبورة، لأن الولاد هم اللي بيطلعوا المعلومات في نفسهم. في أساليب تعلم كتير بتطبق، في ألعاب تعليمية كتير، في نوع من أنواع التكنولوجيا موجودة عشان الولاد تقدر تستعمله في البحث. And of course, you're going to find lots of students' work displayed everywhere for students to feel proud of their learning process, to feel ownership, and to know exactly to what extent they have progressed from the beginning of the unit until the end. وطبعا بيكون في أشكال كتير لشغل الولاد متعلقة في الفصل، عشان الولاد تقدر تحس إنهم فخورين باللي هم تعلموا، يقدروا يعرفوا قد إيه هم اتطوروا من أول وحدة البحث لآخر. The second point is the classroom culture. So it is known that the PYP class, it's not structured class, and some people say it's chaotic and students are everywhere. So how do students learn in such a class? This is not true at all. There are routines that are set from the beginning of the year. Students follow, and these routines do not by all means conflict or contradict the idea that students are moving all the time and that they are the ones doing all the inquiry inside the class. So students are moving, students are talking, students are sitting wherever they want, but they know exactly the purpose of what they're doing. They are engaged, they like what they're doing, and they are talking to discuss the ideas that they are learning about. And they're moving so that they can get their energy out, and at the same time, there is something called movement-based learning, which means that when students learn, their brain is more likely to learn and to be attentive. في هنا نقطة وهي ثقافة الفصل، لأن معروف إن فصل المرحلة الابتدائية في البكالوريا الدولية إن الولاد بتتحرك كتير، والناس بتقول الفصل إزاي الولاد تقدر تتعلم في فصل في كمية الحركة دي وفي كمية الكلام دي. ده مش حقيقي. لما الولاد بتقدر إنها تعبر عن نفسها وبتقدر إنها تتحرك، ده بيخليها تتعلم أسرع وبطريقة أحسن. في ولاد بتتعلم عن طريق الحركة. لما الولاد تتكلم ده بيخليهم يناقشوا أفكارهم، بيخليهم يقدروا إنهم يتكلموا ويعبروا عن نفسهم. جاوبت عليهم؟
Not about this.
Okay.
But we have some questions I would like to address whenever.
Okay, I'll just finish this point and I can
Please do.
So here, also moving about in the classroom, discussing their thoughts is linked to the skills they're developing. So here there are gross motor skills involved, there are thinking skills, communication skills, social skills. So there are lots of skills being developed through the movement of students inside the class and the discussions. This is another point. We can address one.
All right, give your lips a break for just a minute. We have a couple of questions. I'll read them out loud and then attempt to address them. And from Abir, first of all, we have a hello from Nadia or Hadia. Thank you so much. That's very, very kind. Abir Rafat, she asks, hi everyone, this is Abir from Cairo. I wonder if you have a PowerPoint presentation. I think the subjects are integrated with community service. There is IB Middle Years program has a thing called service as learning, and then for diploma there is creativity, activity, and service. So that's where the service element comes in. The school itself will have service projects for students to involve in that are vetted with non-government organizations that have been approved by the government and so forth. But what those are, we are not ready to discuss that or prepare, because that involves parents and it involves the students having a choice about that and how that service learning might involve the teaching in the classroom. So we'll have more about that some other time. I think your request was, would there be a PowerPoint presentation to discuss all this? There will be a series of presentations given to all parents as part of the orientation workshop, but also as part of staff orientation. And as we develop those programs, we're happy to share them with you. The other part is you may already find PowerPoint presentations on much of this at the ibo.org website. So I hope that's very helpful. So yes, there will be PowerPoint presentations, but this hour-long presentation, it would create a 25 or 30 slide PowerPoint presentation, and without us explaining the points of it, then it would not make a lot of sense for you. Abir has also mentioned a couple comments here. Student-centered class, yes, that's the IB way. The next thing was, this is a positive noise.
Of course.
We are very happy, we agree, otherwise we wouldn't be offering IB PYP program. And thank you for, I think you're enjoying the presentation, and I certainly hope so. Hadia asks, how can I join as a teacher? You can go to our school's website, uisegypt.com, and look at careers, and then you'll see the positions available and how you can apply. There will also be a job description there that tells you if you are qualified to apply. There's no reason to apply if you do not meet certain qualifications.
I just would like to add a point to the community service part. I'm going to discuss this in the action part at the end of the presentation. And also there is the exhibition that takes place in grade 5 where students, they conduct community service as part of their action for the unit. So this is another part for community service.
Mariana Massa has asked a question. And that is, since schools may not be allowed to open in September with the coronavirus situation, are you planning to give IB PYP students access to digital libraries? We're planning to give access to the school's library resources directly to the students. There will be a pickup and delivery service regarding pleasure reading, the promotion of literacy and reading, and for parents to use to read to their children. And at the same time, there will be classroom libraries created for each unit of inquiry from the library. So those resources will also be available. Maybe we also have suggestions for online databases and things that will help students, but that's by grade level and again by topic level. But the school's library is will be substantial in French, Arabic, and English, and of course, again, we'll send out more details about the delivery and pickup service probably in August, Our librarian is currently overseas, and we're working to get her here by the 1st of August, and that'll be up to her. So I hope that that helps. And I think that addresses all the questions we have for the moment. Are you rested?
Yeah, I am.
All right. We've got about 20 minutes of this session, so we hope to. Rafat asks, what's the course book for English? We don't use textbooks in the primary years program, something that Nesma has addressed, I think, today, but she can address again to make it more clear.
Actually, I'm going to address it in the next point.
Good timing, Abir. Thank you. But again, we don't have a course book for English. We don't have textbooks like regular schools. There's a reason for that, is that textbooks teach to the middle of the class. And so that means the kids who need a stronger reading text or a lesser strong one are left out. And so the IB PYP doesn't use textbooks usually ever. We use our own library and we develop our own resources. Okay, I hope that's helpful.
It's helpful for me, thank you. Okay, so the next point is the activities and resources. What activities and resources are there in the class, and what kind of books do we use? So we don't use course books or textbooks. We use different books as resources, library books. The books are used by teachers for preparation and to know exactly what type of activities to design for students. So they're used as resources for teachers, and they're used as resources for students and their inquiry process. So I'm going to give an example to make it easier for you to understand how this works. So for example, if we have the theme, who we are, and we are talking about a healthy lifestyle, for example. Here, I'd like to mention that any concept can be taught to any grade level, but it differs in the depth of understanding that we are intending or we're expecting the students to reach, and the facts that are going to be included in this concept. So for example, if the healthy lifestyle is being taught to grade 2, for example, then we're going to have different types of food, for example, food groups, some grains, flour, some pasta, for example, because they're all made of wheat. So this is one part. And we can have some vegetables, some fruits for students to know the difference between the food groups, and they can put these into or sort them out into food groups. And this would be, they would use real food. In another center, they would be learning about hygiene. They can have some hygienic items, how they use them. They're going to talk about their daily routines. In another group, they would be talking about where food comes from, for example, and how we decide whether this food is healthy or unhealthy. So in each group and each activity is differentiated. So how is it differentiated? It's differentiated based on the learning style. So when students are using real food, they're using their senses to explore it. So here it's beneficial for tactile students. They're discussing their thoughts and their ideas. So linguistic students would be engaged. They would be, of course, observing the types of food, which is will be helpful for visual students, and it's the same for the other groups. It's differentiated based on ability. So, for example, some students would know that pasta and flour are all made out of wheat, but some other students won't know. So teacher would scaffold for these students to reach the understanding that they all come from the same source. We can have different, for example, we can have 3 food groups for some students and 4 food groups for the other students. And then next time they can be introduced to the 4th. So we can take it one step at a time. So it's differentiated based on interest. Some students would like, for example, to put the types of food and sort them out as they are. Some students would like to draw them. So, and for example, for the routines, daily routines, they would discuss it, or they would write it, or they would draw it. So it's also based on their interest. And here there is a sense of agency because students choose the types of groups they would like to sort out. They choose which center to visit first. For example, they would tell their daily routines, which is something very personal and differs from one student to the other. We can have a center for research skills. For example, they can use computers, tabs or tablets, or they can use the books. So again, there is lots of choices that students would make throughout the learning process. If the same concept is taught for earlier students, they would use, for example, rice, because it's a word that is very much similar to the Arabic word. And they would write the letter R, for example, using rice. They would have a tray full of rice and they would trace letter R. So here we're using the same unit to teach phonics. So it differs depending on the age group, depending on the levels of the students and their interests. Okay, I'll translate this part.
Good luck.
Talked a lot. هنا بنتكلم على الأنشطة وعلى إيه بالظبط الأدوات اللي الولاد بيستعملوها في التعلم. إحنا ما بنستعملش كتب مدرسية، إحنا بنستعمل كتب مكتبية اللي المدرسين بيستعملوها عشان يقدروا إن هم يصمموا الأنشطة اللي الولاد هيتعلموا من خلالها. وبرضو كتب مدرسية الولاد، كتب مكتبية الولاد يقدروا يستعملوها من خلال مرحلة البحث والاستقصاء بتاعتهم من خلال وحدة البحث. بيبقى فيه كذا مجموعة، وكل مجموعة بيبقى فيها نشاط مختلف عن التاني، وكل نشاط بنقدر إن إحنا نحط فيه فكرة من الفروق الفردية وبنراعي في الفروق الفردية للولاد. يعني مثلا ممكن مجموعة يبقوا يشتغلوا على أكل حقيقي وبيبتدوا إن هم خضروات، فواكه، حبوب، ويبتدوا إن هم يحطوهم بناء على مجموعات الغذائية. في مجموعة ممكن يبقوا بيتكلموا على الروتين اليومي بتاعهم وإزاي بيقدروا إن هم يعتنوا بنظافتهم الشخصية. في مجموعة ممكن يكونوا بيعملوا بحث وبيستعملوا الكمبيوتر أو بيستعملوا الكتب علشان يقدروا إن هم يطلعوا المعلومات. لو نفس الموضوع ده بيتدرس لولاد في سن أصغر، بيبتدوا يتعلموا اللغة من خلال الوحدة البحث دي، بيبتدوا يتعلموا الحروف وإزاي يكتبوها من خلال استخدام المواد الغذائية اللي موجودة في الأماكن أو الأركان المختلفة. ودي كلها مراعاة الفروق الفردية فيها بتبقى من كذا جهة. يعني مثلا إن الولاد يقدروا إن هم يمسكوا أو يشوفوا بالظبط إيه مجموعات الأكل دي، بتساعد الولاد اللي بتحب إنها تشوف الحاجة قدامها، الولاد اللي بتحب إنها تتحرك. الولاد بيبتدوا يتكلموا مع بعض في المجموعات دي، فده بيساعد الولاد اللي بتحب إنها تتكلم وبتتعلم عن طريق الكلام. وطبعا الكتب موجودة للولاد اللي بتتعلم من خلال القراءة. وبالنسبة للسن الأصغر برضو في كتب اللي فيها صور بس أو كتب اللي فيها كلمة واحدة، دي بتبقى موجودة عشان كل الولاد تقدر إنها تتعلم وتوصل لفهم للوحدة. So now I've covered 3 points: the activities and resources, the differentiation, the technology integration. I'm going to talk about trips because they're also an important part of the teaching and learning process. And here there is sense of agency because students can choose the field trips that they would like to go on, and they know that these field trips should be related to the units of inquiry and what exactly they are going to add to their understanding through these trips. برضو هنا هنتكلم على الرحلات المدرسية لأن هي مهمة وبتقدر إن هي تزود الفهم بتاع الطلاب للوحدة، وبرضو بتدي زيادة في الوكالات التعليمية للطلاب لأنهم بيقدروا يختاروا الأماكن اللي هم يحبوا يزوروها وإزاي إن هي مرتبطة بوحدة البحث وإزاي هتقدر إن هي تزود لفهمهم للوحدة. And the last part here is the role of the teacher. As I mentioned before, the teacher is not the source of information. So why is the teacher there in a classroom? The teacher is there to facilitate the learning process. So first, as we mentioned, there are routines that are set in the classroom. Students know how to rotate among centers, how to use resources, how exactly to facilitate discussions, group roles. So all this is the role of the teacher, and we're adding to them, of course, the scaffolding part. If a student is being challenged, so she knows how to adjust the level of challenge in each activity and to make the students reach an understanding. And the third part is the assessment part. So the teacher is there to assess students' understanding throughout the learning process. So assessment here and the assessed curriculum is part of the teaching and learning process, and it's not separate. So while students are learning, there are these are sort of forms of formative assessments. The teacher is assessing their prior knowledge, of course, and to what extent they know about the concepts they're going to learn about, and how they're progressing throughout the learning process, and what she needs to change or add to the activities or the students' learning in order to make the learning process more efficient. هنا هنتكلم على دور المدرسة في العملية التعليمية. زي ما قلنا مش هي مصدر المعلومات للولاد، الولاد هي اللي بتدور وبتوصل للمعلومة. طيب هي موجودة ليه؟ هي موجودة علشان تظبط العملية التعليمية بمعنى أدق، إن هي تقدر تعرف الولاد مستواهم إيه في أول الوحدة وإزاي إن هم بيتطوروا، وتقدر إن هي تقيمهم من خلال أدائهم في الوحدة علشان تطور العملية التعليمية وتخليها أحسن. لو في ولاد مش قادرين يوصلوا لفهم معين للوحدة أو الفهم مش بالعمق المطلوب، فتقدر إن هي تغير الأنشطة أو تزود أنشطة بحيث إن الولاد كلهم يقدروا إن هم يوصلوا لفهم للوحدة.
Do you want to take a break for a second and ask some questions? We have a question from Abir. What's the standard core of the IB? I don't know if you're referring to primary years, middle years, or diploma program. So if Abir, if you're still online, would you clarify your question? Is it core subjects? Is it, what is it exactly you're asking? Because of course it can be quite complicated depending on the one of the three major programs of the IB. If you mean what standards we teach, we covered that a little bit earlier, and the IB gives us some standards and framework, but we're using the US Common Core standards to understand benchmarks for student learning by the end of each school year. So Beer's asking, would you unmute me? I don't know what that means, but we do the talking here, and we don't have a back and forth questioning session. Just type your questions here, and we will try to answer that. If you are, if you need to talk to someone in person to make it more clear, please call our hotline number, which is on our website, on our Facebook page, on our Instagram page. I hope that's helpful. Okay. There's no questions on online, so that's it. So back to you.
10 minutes to wrap up.
we've got 6 or 7 minutes, and then we'll need to wrap up.
Okay. Here I just elaborate more on the role of agency and what agency is, and its relation to student action. So as we mentioned before, action is an important element in the teaching and the learning process in the IB PYP. So students need to come up with an action at the end of the unit or throughout the units of inquiry, so that they would reflect their understanding of the unit and how these units help them develop themselves in different means. First, it starts with agency. Students, as I mentioned before, they have the choice to choose the resources they would use, the field trips they would go on, their grouping sometimes, and they would choose what points they would inquire into, and they would have a say in the discussions, of course, and they would express themselves through these discussions. And they have, or there is something called student-initiated actions. These actions are actions that students decide to do based on their understanding of the unit. So for example, if I'm going to continue with the same example of a healthy lifestyle, how would students' daily routines and lifestyles change according to their understanding of the unit? So this can be reflected, for example, from the lunch boxes they get to the school. So if they come to school at the beginning of the year with noodles, for example, and by the end of the unit, they started to get vegetables and fruits, that means this is an action that they have taken, and they have changed the way they behave based on their understanding. It could be even a feeling, if they feel empathy towards people, for example, to start community service, this would be a type of action. And how they would help these people, this is a student-initiated action. Action also can be through the summative assessments, but this would be a teacher-initiated action. The teacher would give choices to students to create a product that reflects their understanding of the unit. For example, for the healthy lifestyle, they would create an awareness campaign, what tools you would use for this campaign, and what exactly is the content that is going to be included in the campaign. So this is part of community service, as they are going to raise their colleagues' awareness and the school community members' awareness of the importance of healthy lifestyle. Okay, I'll translate this point and then go to the next one. هنا بنتكلم على ايه اللي الولاد بيعملوه علشان يقدروا ان هم يعبروا عن فهمهم للوحدة. وفي حاجة اسمها اكشن او اختيارات الولاد لايه بالظبط اللي يعملوه. ده ممكن يكون من خلال احساسهم انهم يحسوا ان هو محتاجين انهم يخدموا حد معين او يساعدوا حد معين. ممكن يكون من خلال اختلاف في حاجة هم بيعملوها، زي مثلا لما بنتكلم على النظام الصحي أو النظام المعيشة الصحي، إن هم إزاي يغيروا طبيعة الأكل اللي هم بياكلوه مثلا. ده نوع من أنواع الأكشن أو نوع من أنواع التعبير عن فهمهم للوحدة. ده كمان ممكن يكون من خلال التقييم النهائي، وده ممكن تكون المدرسة هي اللي بتقدر تعرض عليهم أنواع معينة من الأشكال اللي هم يقدروا يعبروا بيها عن اللي هم اتعلموه. فممكن تقول لهم إن هم مثلا يعرفوا الناس إيه أهمية النظام المعيشة الصحي وإزاي بيأثر على صحتهم، وبالتالي هم بيقدروا يفيدوا الناس اللي موجودة في المدرسة.
You're going to have to quickly do it because I need to answer a couple of questions here and then we'll be done.
Okay. Also, as part of agency, all students are built based on students' prior knowledge. So when the teachers are designing activities, they bear in mind students' prior knowledge and what exactly they know about the concepts they're learning about. Part of student agency also is the conceptual understandings, because we're not forcing students to reach an understanding that they are unable to reach. Each student would reach their own personal understanding of the unit. I wish I had examples from my previous students' work, but anyway, I can find some later. And also, there is the collaboration element here of the PYP, that teachers would collaborate so that they would know how students are performing in different disciplines and how each discipline can like make students' understanding in other disciplines clearer. And also there is the vertical and horizontal articulation, which gives us an understanding of what exactly students are going to reach by the end of this year. And if they don't reach it, how exactly we're going to like improve this in the coming years. Okay, I'll translate this part and I'll be done.
Yay!
Yeah. هنا بنتكلم على إحساس الولاد بإن هم ليهم قول زي ما بيقولوا في العملية التعليمية أو فكرة الوكالة التعليمية. دي بيبقى جزء منها هو المعلومات المسبقة للأطفال عن أو للطلبة عن وحدة البحث، فهم يعرفوا إيه عن المفهوم ده وإزاي المدرسة تقدر أو المدرس يقدر إن هو يبني الأنشطة بتاعة الوحدة بناء على اللي الولاد عارفينه من قبل كده ويطور المعرفة دي. مفاهيم الولاد، المفاهيم اللي الولاد بتقدر توصلها من خلال الوحدة بتبقى مختلفة وبتختلف من طفل للآخر. وهنا ما بيبقاش فيه إن الولاد لازم توصل لمفهوم معين، لا، المفهوم ممكن يختلف من طفل لآخر، وده ما بيأثرش على فهمه للموضوع، ده بيأثر على تطبيقه بعد كده في حياته وإزاي يقدر يوسع مداركه. في نقطة تانية وهي إن المدرسين كلهم بيتعاونوا مع بعض في إنهم يقدروا يساعدوا الأطفال إنهم يوصلوا للمفاهيم دي من خلال المواد المختلفة. وفي حاجة اسمها التخطيط الرأسي والأفقي، وده بيتم من خلال معرفة المدرسين بالظبط الولاد المفروض يعرفوا إيه في السنة الدراسية دي، والمفروض لو ما عرفوش يقدروا يطوروه إزاي من خلال السنين الدراسية بعد كده، وإزاي هيقدروا يبنوا عليه من خلال السنين اللي بعد كده.
So we have a couple of questions here. One is from Hadia Mustafa. She's asking, when is the school starting middle years program and the diploma? This is the 2020-21 school year. We're offering to grade 3. The 21-22 school year, we will offer grades 4 and 5. MYP begins in grade 6. Middle years program begins in grade 6. So that's 2 full school years from now. We'll offer grade 6 and 7 in the 22-23 school year. And 3 or 4 years after that, we'll have the IB diploma. So it's a gradual approach. So we want our students to be developed in the IB way in terms of thinking, ownership of their learning, their ability to work together, have an ethical being, be proud of Egyptian, having strong Arabic and English skills, and all those things. And thank you for your good luck. We love that and need that, of course. Yeah. Abir has a question. Is it the College Board? The College Board is a nonprofit organization in the United States that offers different types of examinations, like the Scholastic Aptitude Test, the SAT, to go into university. The Common Core standards were developed by the United States Department of Education with different types of groups, like the Association of English Teachers and so forth. That has nothing to do with the College Board. So the answer to that is no. Nothing that we do has anything related to the College Board. Our students, of course, may decide to take SAT exams, but that has nothing to do with us. And anybody can take SAT exams. You can take it, I can take it. And it doesn't matter which system you've studied in. Nothing prepares you for the SAT because it's a type of examination that no one ever uses before or after. It's a multiple choice exam, possibly a simplistic essay that has almost no meaning for how successful you will be in college. That's my opinion. Take it or leave it. So now let's check one more time online to see if we have any further questions. No, we don't have anything else. We will be back next week. I believe it's on the 10th of June. We'll have another session, and it's about teacher qualifications and how we have selected our teachers and what they're bringing to the table and how they will help your children be successful. So if you have any further questions, you can email our info email on the website, call the hotline on the website, or any of our social media. We look forward to hearing from you, and have a good day.